Okay, and welcome back to Matchweek Breakdown. Match week 12 just passed, and the title race I feel is really starting to flow a bit. You know what I mean? The top of the table is starting to kind of take shape. The relegation battle, there is kind of one team that has already cemented themselves and getting ready for next season. We'll talk about it a bit later in the video, as you know what we do. Obviously, we go through every game. You get you get the score. You get who scored. What more could you want? Well, probably technical analysis, but we'll cover that when it comes to it. If you didn't watch my last video, obviously my face is here. Um, I keep looking over here because that's where I am, so I can see if everything's all good. Just that sort of stuff, just to wrap it up. Um, just in case you were wondering, really. But anyway, starting off quickly with Burnley and Chelsea. Coming into this game, I was kind of hopeful of Burnley. Obviously their home form. I don't know why my English isn't Englishing already. Their home form has been fairly decent for the rest of the season, and as I've said many different times throughout this, the newly promoted team's home form will be so crucial to their season. And obviously, I don't think Burnley have been beaten at their home stadium for a very long time now. So it's very important for them to keep their home form good. Obviously, it dropped a little bit in this game with a 2-0 loss to Chelsea from goals from both Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez. Um, but that's something that will just happen sometimes, you know? You won't always get the games that you want. They're very difficult to keep form throughout the season when you have those class teams like Chelsea, like Arsenal, like your Man Cities. I was going to say like Liverpool, but we know how their downfall is going right now. So I don't think that as much of a threat as they used to be, obviously last season. And there are different reasons for that. Of course, there is. Like not every football club is going to be perfect. Do you know what I mean? But it's one of those things that obviously your form isn't going to stay with you for the whole season. There will be dips, there will be growth, there will be everything will be affecting your season in one way if it's one game or five. Do you know what I mean? And Burnley might be going through a period like that right now, but their home form as a whole has been pretty. It's been fairly decent. They've been grinding out those good results, and even though they got that loss against Arsenal at Turf Moor, that doesn't mean they've had a bad game. It just means that their plan didn't really work out. They started with a back four for Chelsea, and they started with a back five for us, and that back five didn't really stay secure for very long. It's just one of those things. That doesn't mean they're a bad team. It just means that their plan maybe didn't get executed, and other teams are more superior to them. And Chelsea, in this case, in this game, were more superior to them. Um, it was 2-0. It wasn't a massively difficult game for Chelsea to kind of get into their groove to. 15 shots, 5 on target, opposed to Burnley's 8 and 2 on target. Their XG was far superior, possession was far superior, passes, corners. Dubravka made more saves than Robert Sanchez during this game, but he also let more in, which is the big deciding factor. Obviously, very good goals in my opinion. I think the run that Jamie Bino and Gittins makes and then the cross for Pedro Neto was absolute perfection. And I think Jamie Bino and Gittins coming from obviously Dortmund in the latest transfer window and the summer transfer window was one that he's going to take his time to get into the league a little bit. Even though he's English, it doesn't mean he's played in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? So he's going to take his time getting there. And I feel like he's really starting to kind of find his feet. Obviously, he scored in the Carabao Cup their last round against, I can't remember who, I'll be very honest. I think it was a Premier League team, but I just can't remember who. Yeah, I feel like he's kind of finding his feet a little bit more. He's getting those starts that he wants. And Enzo Maresca is using him superbly, using his pace and his dribbling to get away from defences. And obviously, with Bino Gittins going up against Kyle Walker, even though Kyle Walker is quick, even for his age, Jamie Bino Gittins is younger, he's quicker, he's more agile, he's on it all the time. And that's one of the things, like Kyle Walker got a yellow in this game. Um, that just kind of shows this type of power that Bino and Gittins putting on him all game. And I don't think it will be long until an England call up, first team England call up to Jamie Bino and Gittins either, because he's performing so well at quite a high level at the moment. And starting in that Chelsea team for the amount of players that they have in each position is it's very good. It's a very good season for him so far. And he seems to be settling into this team really well. I think Cole Palmer should be back soon. I don't know if he's going to be back for the Barcelona game. That is tonight. I want to say that's tonight. Just bear with me for 2 seconds whilst I check my text. Um, Now I think Chelsea do play tonight, but it might not be against Barcelona. So I just need to fact check myself. Yeah, Chelsea Barcelona is tonight, 8 p.m. I don't know if this video will be up before that, so we'll see, I guess. But yeah, Chelsea just looked really assured. Pedro Neto, Enzo Fernandez. Now Enzo Fernandez had a really good goal as well. It's just one of those things. Now even though it was just 1-0 before the 88th minute, before Fernandez scored, like Burnley were quite good defensively. Do you know what I mean? Like they had 8 shots still. That's not a bad record when your plan is to sit defensively and kind of soak up the pressure and go on the counter. It's good. Um, their midfield, as in Burnley's midfield, can sometimes be a bit lackluster. Obviously, Josh Cullen is a great captain, and then Florentino and Ugochukwu, who is facing his former club here actually. Um, they're two fairly young players, and they get around the pitch a lot, and then Josh Cullen can kind of ping his passes out. We've seen it a few times this season where he's obviously got Tuchanu. I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly, so please do. I apologise if I'm saying that name wrong. And then Jaden Aptony, who has been really good this season, a bit inconsistent as of late, but that'll, as I said, your form will change over the course of a season. But Jaden Aptony has been performing at a fairly decent level. Um, so yeah, just kind of dictate play from where he is and ping those balls out to his two wingers, and then maybe play one over to Zian Fleming, who has been in incredible form of late again, but just wasn't able to get going in this game. But that happened to everyone. Do you know what I mean? Um, so it's just one of those things, and it's just a little stumbling block in the way. But Chelsea they've looked really secure as of late, and I can't really fault them for that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Scott Parker, he set with kind of the same game plan that he does, and that is soak up the pressure and play on the counter, um, which has worked fairly well for him, kind of, this season anyway. Um, but yeah, you'll have games where sometimes it doesn't work out the way that you want it to, but that's just that, you know. But yeah, Chelsea 2-0 win, and then this game was really good for two players. Well, three technically. Um, It was Bournemouth West Ham, where West Ham were leading 2-0 by two excellent goals by Callum Wilson, may I just say. And it got brought back 2-2 by a returning Enes Unal in the 81st minute, with pretty much his first touches of the game. Um, yeah, like I said, two incredible goals by Callum Wilson, who I always rated at Newcastle. Obviously, one of his former clubs was Bournemouth, but he never really got the chance to shine at Newcastle. Obviously, he came in like 2019, 2020, I want to say, kind of around that time. And Isak came in a year and a half, 2 years later. So he wasn't able to get to the level that he wanted to with those Newcastle fans because of the Isak. Because of the Isak, yes, that's very good. But because of Isak, and his chances kind of depleted a little bit from there. But every player will go through that, and obviously with age, it's not going to get any easier. But he's performing really well in a West Ham shirt. And I think what Nuno is doing for this West Ham team is equally incredible to what Callum Wilson's doing in the West Ham shirt. Um, Both of them were kind of on the volley. The second one was a bit better in terms of technique than the first one. Obviously, the ball comes in from a corner, he chats it down and just really well turns his hips towards the goal, and he kind of curves his volley in a way to that top corner. It was a really, really good sublime finish from 34-year-old Alan Wilson, I think. He's around that like 34, 33, 34 age. But I want to touch on another player here, and that is Alphonse Areola, who had a really, really good game and goal. Obviously, let in two, but he saved 3 or 4 more goals from going in. Um, that West Ham defence maybe isn't as secure as it should be. Obviously, Jean-Claire Todibo had a decent game. Igor Julio and then Maximilian Kilman need to work on that a bit more. Work on their games. Maybe that's some business that they could do if Nuno gets the right funds from owners and all of that. They maybe need to secure those two centre backs, or maybe even one, and just leave Igor Julio or Maximilian Kilman in. because Jean-Claire Todibo has been so good this season. I don't think he's been top five. He might scrape it into the top 10 or get an honourable mention at least, because he has been really good this season in a really poor West Ham start, I must say. But yeah, Alphonso Areola kept so many of these goals out. If you go back and watch the game or even just the highlights, his the way he sets himself up when someone's coming at him has just been really superb. And he hasn't had the best of seasons in a West Ham shirt, I must say, but it's just one that he had a really good game this game. And hopefully many more to come if West Ham don't get relegated, which would be a shame because I don't mind watching West Ham play. Another player, we're on another one, is Freddie Pitts actually, who obviously, as the West Ham youngster, got one of his first starts of the season and in his career. He has a lot of work to do, but that's expected because he is so young. It's not one of those things that you'll. He's not like I'm gonna say. He's not like a Max Dowman or a Declan Rice where he can come in first season and really put the shift in all the time. He's gonna have to build up to that a bit more. But I think with the showings that he's put in this season, he'll grow into it all right. Like he's not I don't think he's a starter. Maybe new, and obviously I'm not there every game. I don't watch every single game, start to finish, and I'm not in the West Ham ground every day, so I don't know how Freddie Potts is performing on the training, or before games or anything like that. But with what he's shown this season, he's maybe not ready for a start, and I would start maybe a bit more, someone a bit more get at it, maybe a Thomas Souček should start in there, or even like Andy Irving or George Earthy or players that we saw last season who can be reliable more than Freddie Potts. I'm not saying that Freddie Potts is a bad player by any player by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying maybe for now, just hold off on it for a little bit, play him a little bit. Like I'm talking 20, 30 minutes at the end of a game, put him in your cup games, and then see how he develops from there. But that's just in my opinion. I'm not saying do that for different. Mateus Fernandez next to him kind of provided that bit more stability, and then Thomas Souček coming on later on. Like, yes, this is a bit that would like frustrate me as a manager and kind of boggle me a bit, and that's why I can't do it to the top level. Um, with Mateus Fernandez and Thomas Souček, I don't know if they are connected. Like, again, I'm not there every day with the team, so maybe Freddie Potts and Mateus Fernandez communicate really well on the pitch together. But Thomas Souček is so tall, and I feel like he would just get like Fernandez is a fairly creative player, and he's everywhere all the time. But I feel like Thomas Souček might just get in his way a little bit. Like he's very Souček does stuff very off the top of his head. He's not a player that thinks about the game all the time. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those players that will do it on the fly. It's one of those things where you have to get these combinations correct every game, otherwise your team will fall to pieces. And I don't know if Lucas Paqueta didn't start this game, and he wasn't on the bench either. So maybe there's a little bit of an injury there. Maybe he got injured with the Brazil national team. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things, Like obviously Louis Gel, is that how you say his name? I don't know. Someone told me if I'm wrong. But Louis Gelhardt came in his place. He got dragged off at half time. Didn't have the best of effects on the game. And then Jared Bowen captained the team out, put in a really solid performance. But yeah, the two players I wanted to focus on were Ariola and Callum Wilson, who had a really good game, and I'm really glad that he's actually getting the starts and getting the recognition that he deserves now off coming off from Newcastle and having like he's had a fairly good career. I don't know he obviously got the Carabao Cup last year. I don't think he's had any like really major trophies. Um, but that's just one of those things, you know what I mean? Like Harry Kane didn't get one until he was what, 32, 33 at Bayern? But Callum Wilson isn't at the stature of Harry Kane at all. So I think the Carabao Cup will be what he has to settle for in his career. But other than that, really, really good player, really good like finishing, goal scoring player. He's just, yeah, he's honestly one of my favourites. I can't. He's really good. That's all I can say. And then Bournemouth. Evan Nilsson's been a bit off it lately, if I'm honest. Obviously last season he was like, wow, my lisp really shone through there. Obviously he was really good last season. Um, No, he was really good last season, and obviously not getting that scoring recently. I think he scored one goal in just the Premier League in the 12 games that we've played so far. Um, Getting one goal in 12 games as your main striker isn't something that you want, and maybe there are reasons for that we don't see all the time. Maybe he's dealing with stuff behind the scenes. I don't know. But one goal for your main striker really doesn't cut it for a team like Bournemouth who want to be finishing in those high positions like they were last season. Like they were top five, top six for a lot of last season, and then dropped the ball right at the last second. But there have been players around him that can pick him up from that, like Eli Junior Krupi, David Brooks, and Tavernier, who have been behind him all season. Obviously, there was Semenyo. He wasn't in this game. Again, maybe something that we haven't seen behind the scenes where he might be injured or stuff like that, you know. Um, but yeah, he's luckily had the players around him that can pick him up. If he was at somewhere like Wolves and he wasn't scoring, Wolves don't really have those other players around you that can really pick you up, like John Arias. Like he's not going to pick you up from that, is he? Um, but yeah, Bournemouth have always been really good at keeping together as a team and making sure that they pick each other up whenever they can, even if one person is underperforming. And that person right now, for me, is Evan Nilsson, who is underperforming a little bit. Um, wow, this chair really isn't doing that. Anyway, um, yeah, but I think Evan Nilsson should be really grateful to his teammates for not giving up on him. Like he's still getting chances, but he just isn't finishing them off as well as he was if they were given to him last season. And then Enes Unal obviously came in around the 80th minute and scored in the 81st. It was a really good spin from him. A lovely ball played through, by the way. Really cut through the lines, really cut through the channels, and then Enes Unal just off the last shoulder of the defender spun. Really calm, cool finish, kind of what they've been missing for a lot. Whilst obviously him and Evan Nelson got injured last season, I think he Enes Unal hasn't been back for long, but he's really starting to show that he wants that starting place again and he can change games when he comes in. And maybe he isn't playing like that. Like Martinelli's been it for Arsenal a little bit this season, where he's kind of come off the bench and he's been performing better off the bench than what he would when he's starting. Maybe he's one of those players. I don't know, but he's really shown that he wants that starting spot of Evan Nilsson. And if he keeps performing like this off the bench, or maybe in a cup game, it can happen. Football switches so quickly sometimes; it is incredible. Next game is Brighton Brentford, where Igor Thiago again put the put the bees in front. He's having such a good season, remarkable season right now. He is second in goal scoring, just behind Erling Haaland, who has 13. And I think Igor Thiago is around the 9 to 10 mark. I might be a bit off. Um, and then in the second half, Danny Welbeck, who I think deserves an England call-up personally. He has just been so reliable for Brighton of recent that I think it would be difficult to leave him out for who are we going to leave him out for? Like, what other strikers do England have? Tell me, like, three other strikers that you would take in the England squad instead of Danny Welbeck, because I would take Harry Kane and then I would take Danny Welbeck. You know, like, he's one of those players that even though his age is getting on a little bit, he's around the same age as Callum Wilson, 34, 35, but he's so reliable in this Brighton team and maybe it would change on an international stage. Obviously, there will be younger players on the international stage and players who have the same kind of experience. It will be difficult, but I think personally he would do really well in the England squad, and I think he deserves that final call up. And I don't know how he hasn't got one yet. I don't know if Thomas Tuchel's watching Brighton games with his eyes closed or what, but I think he deserves that England call up more than most Premier League strikers right now, because he's performing at such a high level at such a high age. And even at Manchester United and Arsenal, when he was coming through as kind of a younger player, but gaining experience through it, he was still such a good player then. And I think he's gotten a handful of England call-ups and a handful of caps made, which is diabolical because he's always been like in his career, he can kind of be the main man at Brighton now, but throughout his career in that Man United team with Rooney, Van Persie came through, when he was there as well, I believe. I think he joined kind of he came through the academy obviously, but I think he joined kind of just as Rooney was there. I think Giggs was just leaving when he came in. correct me if I'm wrong again. Rio Ferdinand was there, Vidic was there, De Gea, these players around him that kind of outshone him a little bit. And that's when he got the move to Arsenal, and then Ozil came in, and then Sanchez came in, and Cazorla, and again all these other players, and Giroud was there at the time as well, and Mertesacker and Koscielny, Monreal, Bellerin. I think there was Ospina there at that time, and just these other players that would come in and outshine him, even though he was so crucial to the team. But at this Brighton team, with Yankuba Mente and Diego Gomez and Jorginho Ruta behind him, he can really express and show himself and be a leader now that he's the captain as well. And I think that's really, really good for his career. And I think he'll end it on a high note with potentially getting an England call up. And I don't know if that'll be changing. There we go. I don't know if that'll be this season that he ends, or next season that he ends, or the season after. I don't know, but I really hope he ends it in the Premier League and doesn't go to somewhere like Saudi or Italy. Obviously, we know Jamie Vardy left Leicester last season, and he still has so much to give in Italy. But I feel like Danny Welbeck's kind of coming to the age where his legs aren't going as quick as they used to, same as Vardy's, but he is around to stick around for 3 years more, just with his intelligence. And we know that with Harry Kane as well. Harry Kane was never a quick player at all, even when he was younger and playing for teams like Norwich or going to the lower divisions with Leicester, people like that. He was never a quick player, but with experience comes your knowledge of the game and knowing where to move and how to move and where to go at certain places. And Danny Welbeck's gaining that, so maybe that'll carry him through a few more years of football. But his legs are going. I don't know if he'll be able to keep that up, and there'll be younger players who can keep up with him. But his head and his mentality and how he knows the game will keep him in it for a while. So maybe his body's shutting down, but his mind is still so in the game. So maybe that'll keep him around. I don't know. Then Jack Hinchelwood is a player who's younger, considerably younger than Danny Welbeck, to be fair, but he is coming up through the Brighton ranks and showing to be a real one for the future. And then there was a big drama in this game as well, obviously, with Igor Thiago missing a penalty late in the game. It was the 94th minute, and Verbruggen is standing face to face with Igor Thiago. He's not far away. He's at the penalty spot. He takes it. It's not a great penalty, and Verbruggen manages to save it. And that is how the game ends. Literally, penalty saved. Verbruggen has got all the limelight. He saved the penalty, and it's one of those things, man. You gotta move on, and you gotta know how to deal with that. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things. I don't think. Ugh, sorry. Um, it's just one of those things that you have to deal with. And I think, personally, even though they didn't win this game by literally the smallest of margins, this game was so close. Even though Brighton were superior on the ball and kind of off the ball, they had a low XG with more shots in general, more shots on target. Um, but the Keith Andrews with this team has actually been better than Thomas Frank was with this team, which is a weird thing to say. But there's obviously a reason Thomas Frank left Brentford in the hands of Keith Andrews. If he wasn't a good manager, then they would have looked on the manager market. But obviously, he saw something about Keith Andrews and he took the shot, and it's paying off really, really well at the moment. But yeah, as I've said in previous episodes, Keith Andrews will grow with the media. He's still not the greatest. Obviously, he's still getting to his feet. It's his first season in the main driver's seat of this team, and stuff like that will come and go throughout his managerial career. I hope he has a really good one. I can see it being a really good one for him, and maybe not just for Brentford, but for other teams that he could go and manage. I don't think he'll go into the lower leagues. I think he'll stay in the Premier League for a while. Um, but yeah, I think Keith Andrews has done really well with the teams that he's inherited from um, obviously Thomas Frank, and we'll see what he does in the transfer window. Obviously, he lost two of his best players. He lost Mbeumo and Wissa, and has been able to combat it really well. Obviously, you didn't want to lose those two players, but Young and Wissa's been injured for the time that he's been at Newcastle. And then Wemo, his form's starting to pick up for Man United a bit, but he's recovered really well from those two big, big misses in that team. Um, yeah, we'll see what he can do with obviously the upcoming January transfer window. There will be videos for that transfer window as well, so just be ready because I'm so on it when it comes to transfer windows. It's a bit mental. It's an illness, if I'm honest with you. It really is an illness. Um, Next we got Fulham Sunderland. There's a narrow 1-0 win here. Obviously, I think he watched the game on the day 'cause I didn't really have much of an option. Um, Sorry, regarding consistency for the over this time. I'm thinking about it. I think 25 and a half minutes to yawn. This is incredible. Not just in your calendars, it's the day to remember people. Um, Rio Jimenez with an 84th minute winner. I don't actually know how we scored, so we're gonna have to deal with that. We can take it however we want. Actually, I can see because again, I think I actually fell asleep whilst watching Match of the Day. Very close range to the centre of the goal from Samuel Chukwueze. Is that how you say his name? I don't know. That's how I say his name. Um, but yeah, Raul Jimenez, again, one of those. There have been so many players this week that have scored who just have the experience and knowledge of the game now. Like Raul Jimenez is another one who is so technical about his game and how he moves on and off the ball to get into those kind of scoring positions, like Callum Wilson and like Danny Welbeck. He's another one of those players, and maybe that's something that's coming into a function a bit more with managers. Hold on. Oh no, it started. It's not going to end now. Um, what was I saying? What was I saying? Oh yeah, something that will come into fashion a bit more for managers now, maybe. Using those strikers who have a bit more knowledge, and then obviously using the younger players around them. Obviously, Josh Ping was behind in this game. Harry Wilson and Kevin. There's no second name. It is literally Kevin. I'll show you. Look, it's just Kevin. There's like no Kevin last name, no first name Kevin, but like just Kevin. Um, and what was really weird about this side from Marcus Silva is he put Alex Iwobi in next to Sander Berge, but that would normally be a Sasa Lukic place. Uh, it would be Sasa Lukic's place, or you could play Castagne in there, or you could even play like Tom Kenny or Harrison Reed in that spot. So I don't know what's happened. Maybe something for the training ground. Maybe Sasa Lukic's got an injury. I don't know. I don't know. But it's one of those things. You could even put like Ryan Sessegnon, or even someone that would think someone who would sign him, in my opinion, is Calvin Bassey, because he loves pressing out. So if you put him in that role of a CDM, then you could maybe get Sandberg to hold a little bit, but just give Calvin Bassey a game or two in a cup game that doesn't really matter. And you can do this next season as all the cup games, obviously, or if your cup is just starting, so you could maybe play in a game of that one against a lower league team where you put Calvin Bassey in kind of that roaming midfielder spot, obviously get Sanderberg to hold. Or even if you put him in there with Sasa Lukic, as he is a better holding player than Sanderberg realistically. Um, but you put Calvin Bassey in that kind of roaming midfielder role, as he loves to do that at centre back. Like he will push forward whenever he has the chance to centre back with the ball at his feet, or even just to press an opponent. Um, McLean at centre back can be a bit of a disadvantage because as soon as you're caught out of possession, with normal defenders, if you're doing that and you're caught out of possession, you're done for and you are stuck with a three at the back. But Calvin Bassey with the pace, a bit like Van der Ven, can get back into position really quickly and then stump out the attack with his thinking and his size as well. Um, but I think maybe putting Messi in maybe roaming midfielder role. I'm not the manager. Um, just of what I've seen of Calvin Bassey this season and in the seasons, and in past seasons as well. Put him into that roaming midfielder role. See how he does. Third yawn. Shit my nudge. Oh my word. There we go. Yeah, put Calvin Bassey in kind of a roaming midfielder role. Um, I would much rather have uh, Iwobi for Kevin, in my opinion. I think Harry Wilson has been superb when he started. Like even in the Arsenal game or games before that, he's been getting into those little pockets of space and getting a shot off on goal, or even if it goes over or wide, but he's getting those shots off, which is so important. Um, One thing I would say for Sunderland is they are very aggressive in defence, but they're really smart with how they do it. So Granit Xhaka, I want to talk about Granit Xhaka because I saw something earlier and I want to speak about it and I want to know your opinions on it as well. Um, but I think maybe they don't need to be as aggressive as they are with their press. They're very man mark, and when they don't have the ball, when the other team is going backwards, which happens a lot in the game nowadays, they're very high pressing, get forward, man mark, don't let them out of that pen, and kind of pen them in a little bit. But when they're on the back foot and the opposition is coming forward, they drop off a lot, which they did in the Arsenal game. They drop off a lot, and get 11 men behind the ball. And they still do man to man, but they're really aggressive with how they do it. And Dan Ballard saw the repercussions, and Ronaldo saw the repercussions, and Fry Hume saw the repercussions of all getting yellow cards in this game. Um, so maybe they need to sit off a little bit with how aggressive they are. Still man mark, still be aggressive with the man mark, but don't be aggressive with how you deal with the players in the man mark. Does that make sense? Is that's how I see it? You have a different opinion, that's fine, but that's how I see it. Um, but yes, about Granit Xhaka and what I saw someone say, it was actually Specs Gonzalez. If you know Specs Gonzalez, then yes. And you might have seen this clip, but I just want to speak my opinion on it. I saw Specs Gonzalez say that Declan Rice, or no, sorry, Granit Xhaka has been a better player than Declan Rice. And I don't agree with that statement, but I would say that Granit Xhaka has been more influential in the team that he's in than Declan Rice. Now we know Declan Rice has been superb this season, and even last season he was superb, and he was a standout midfielder in the league and in the Champions League. Obviously, those two wonderful free kicks against Real Madrid that I watch every day and I dream of. I'm joking. I don't watch them every day. Every other day, maybe. But those two Declan Rice free kicks, even against PSG when he wasn't at his best, he still performed at such a high level that it's a matter of time before he gets higher up in the Ballon d'Or placings, and I think this season he will. But I don't think Granit Xhaka has been at the level of Declan Rice. Not sorry, that's better. Sorry, yawn. No, bloody hell. This isn't getting that out. Um, but yeah, I think Granit Xhaka has been more influential in the team that he's in, but he hasn't been a better player all round than Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice is the best midfielder in the Premier League, the most all-rounded midfielder. And I don't think he's the best midfielder in the world. I think there are better ones. I think you could put Pedri above him. Frankie De Jong it's it's a debate. I think Jude Bellingham is also a debate. I think there are players who are better than Declan Rice. I think he is genuinely top 10 in the world. And I don't think many people would debate that. I think Arsenal fans would say he's the best in the world. He's such an all-rounder. But I think when you talk about impact on games, there can be bigger players than him sometimes. Every now and then there will be a player that pops up. The Caicedo debate is a really big one, and I think the Granit Xhaka debate will get bigger. But I think Granit Xhaka has been more influential, but not as all-rounded and a good player as Declan Rice. Don't get me wrong, Granit Xhaka is incredible in his day. Like he is a very, very good midfielder, and that's what we were missing when we lost him. Um, but yeah, I think he's been good, but I don't think he's been as good all-rounded player as Declan Rice has been. But I think he's still great and influential, and he's more influential than Declan Rice in the team that he's playing. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. If you have a different opinion, then just put it down in the comments, and we can possibly get a chat going. With everyone who watches this video, not just like one guy and then I'll reply and then the chat's over. Like everyone could get involved if they want to. If they all have different opinions or the same opinions or whatever, I don't mind. Just put it down. Next game is one that Liverpool fans won't want to hate, but the drubbing that they got from Nottingham Forest. Obviously 3-0 to Nottingham Forest, Murillo, Nicolo Savona, and then Morgan Gibbs-White in the 78th minute to round up a really, really good Nottingham Forest performance. Arne Slot what's going on. And I know he said after the game that he is holding himself responsible for all the stuff that's happened. Um, it's all his fault, stuff like this. Like, yeah, we know this already. Just he needs to sort it out quick because it's going really, really downhill for Liverpool of recent. Um, they've won one in their last seven. They've lost the other six. They've lost six in 7 games, which for Liverpool standards, and what they did last season, is so bad for their morale and team spirit and everything. And a lot of that could go down to Jota, and I think it will. Like a lot of people will say Jota, but like Salah's been a shadow of himself, Van Dijk's been a shadow of himself, Konate hasn't been at the races at all. And Gravenberch and Szoboszlai and Gakpo have been a shining light. I have no debate about that. Like they have been really, really good when they've been in the team. But then you have players that they spent money on, like Florian Wirtz, who wasn't able to start this game because of a little bit of an injury that he had. Milos Kerkez, Isak, Martinez-Vili, when he came in, was horrendous for the team. Um, and they spent all this money. They've broken the transfer record, the British transfer record twice, and they spent 450, I think, 450 million, somewhere close to that. And the players he's getting in aren't clicking. He even bought, I forgot Franklin, who's made of glass since he's been playing for that, eh? And then Isak, and obviously I've already mentioned Wirtz and Martinez-Vili and Kerkez, and they're not clicking. Like that, they seem a completely different side from last season. He inherited a great, really, really, really great top team, um, with McAllister and Szoboszlai already there. Allison, who is just Allison, and then Van Dijk and Konate were at the top of their game. Salah came in, broke the record instantly. Oh, yeah, nice. Um, yeah, Salah came in, broke his personal records, and I think he broke a league record as well. Um, Gakpo has been good this season. Szoboszlai's been decent in a lot of the games that he played. About 90% of the games he's been really good. McAllister had a really good season last season, but hasn't felt like himself recently. Um, Kirk had a really good season for Bournemouth, one of the best left backs in the league last season. Has looked like a shadow of himself. Isak hit 30 goals last season, got into crybaby mode, and about staying at Newcastle, which I don't know why you would do that. You wait for the offers to come in, man, and play for your team whilst you're still at them. And don't go train at your former club's training facilities. Like that is petty at the top level. But now he's in the Liverpool team and he has done absolutely nothing. And the same for Wirtz. He had a really good season for Leverkusen. Same with Frimpong. They both obviously came from Leverkusen and had really good seasons there. And then left to come to this amazing like Liverpool team and they haven't won anything. Like they haven't done anything since they've been there. They have cried about not being good enough, but like, really? That's the excuse that they're going to use? We haven't been at the races recently. Yeah, clearly, mate. Like, you need to pick yourself up. I know Jota was sad, but would he want to see you fall on your, like, fall flat on your ass and then be performing like that every week? No. He would want to see you win the league again. He won the league with you. Like, what he, and then he won the Euros not long after that. No, he didn't win the Euros. What am I on about? Nation League. Yeah, he won the Nations League not long after. So he won 2 trophies in the space of what, a month? And he passed away, and now you're losing 6 of your last 7. That is not what Jota would want. I'm telling you, like genuinely, and every Liverpool fan would say that as well. That's not what he would want. It's one of those things. But passing on from that, Liverpool 0 goals. The first goal from Morello, which was a really smart finish, by the way. Obviously, Allison had a bit to say about that with uh, who was in his way. I can't remember who was in his way, but there was someone who he thought obstructed his view. I think it was Dan Doy, who did realistically nothing. He was stood in front of Allison, wasn't obstructing his view. You could literally see Allison looking at Morello as he was taking the shot, and Dan Doy didn't move. He twisted himself so he didn't get hit by the ball, but he didn't obstruct Allison's view in a clear and obvious way. So the referee was completely correct. Obviously, the referee was Andy Madley, who is normally a fairly good ref in the grand scheme of things. Um, but you can't go around saying that he was blocking my view because he stood there and didn't do anything to obstruct your view in a clear and obvious way, which is what he would get booked for and done for. That sounds like he would get like the prison sentence just for obstructing my view. But no, like it's such a shit thing to go through, man. Like you're causing a ruckus for literally no reason. Like there's no reason for you to be complaining about that because he did nothing. And VAR will look at that, and with the way it's being run, they might have said something different, but they got it right on this day. And yeah, it's so bad from Alisson, who is such an experienced and world class goalkeeper, to be complaining about that. Van and Doy didn't do anything to obstruct his view. Like Alisson was looking straight at Morello, he saw the ball coming, and Dan and Doy twisted himself to not get hit by the ball. He didn't step in the way of Alisson. He didn't move back into Alisson. He didn't do anything. He was just there. He just stood there. I don't know. And then, not long into the second half, about a minute, maybe not even that, Nicola Savona scored with a really, really good ball across the box, and Savona was just there to put it away in a really good fashion. Obviously, the new boy from Juventus came in. I remember I think his debut was against Arsenal when Ange was first in charge. Um, didn't have a good game at it, like really didn't have a good game, and then he's obviously picked himself back up from that, and I respect it because now he's scoring goals against Liverpool, who are the reigning champions as of currently. They are the reigning champions. Um, so, oh my word, what are we on? You on six? Possibly? You on seven? Who knows? Um, But then Morgan Gibbs White topped it all off with with their third goal, not his third goal. We will go with someone who has scored 3 goals in the game there. But yeah, Morgan Gibbs White, really good finish, really cool finish. Add on to Liverpool's misery. Um, and I want to talk about the Curtis Jones substitution 78 minutes into the game. So they had like around 10 minutes left. And they took Curtis Jones off for Rio Ungamoa, who, as we all know, scored the like 98th minute winner against someone earlier in the season. I can't remember who. I think it was Newcastle, something like that. And I don't know why, because you are putting all your pressure on a very young player. Why would you do that? Because he came in, and I think they were 2-0 down already. Because uh, Morgan Gibbs not scored a third by then. I think he was maybe just about to. Um, what minute did Gibbs score in? 78. So actually, no, they were just about to go 3-0 down. And one of the things that they mentioned in Match of the Day, not about Rio, but just about the space that they had, is Rio and Gamoa came on and went straight to the middle of the pitch. But he could have stayed to the side where all of that space was being given, but he didn't, which is a really poor decision that Arne Slot should have said to him, you can go out and mark this space and not go straight into the middle of the pitch. But he didn't. And he threw Rio Ungamoa in at the deep end and expected him to change the outcome just himself. When that should be put onto Salah, that should be put onto McAllister, to Szoboszlai, to Van Dijk, to Gakpo, to Isak, these more experienced players who have been in this league for seasons upon seasons. Like Salah has been in this league for 7 to 8 years. And then you can add the time at Chelsea, 9 years. It could be hitting 10, but I don't know yet. I think it's around 8 or 9 years. I'm not saying put all of your pressure on him. I'm saying you should be looking at those type of players to make that change and don't put it all onto a 16-year-old who scored 1 goal this season. That is the completely wrong decision. You can bring him on, yes, for some fresh legs, and he can do what he does best and run at the defenders, 100%. But don't put all the pressure on him. You're bringing him on, and they go 3-0 up, and his head dropped instantly. You can tell by the way he was playing afterwards. His head dropped. Like you bought him on at 2-0 and he came on and then you brought Curtis Jones for whatever reason. He's far more experienced than Rio. And they go 3-0 up as soon as you bring him on. It's such a poor decision from Arne Slot to be doing that. It's so, so poor for a manager of the status who is apparently one of the best managers in the world. It's so poor from him. It's so, so poor. But that's something that they have to deal with, and they have to deal with the repercussions of that. Next game that I'm going to go into is one of the teams that I was talking about. I'm very close to the camera. Hello. Um, but it is Wolves versus Crystal Palace. Daniel Munoz and Jeremy Pino. Yeah, Pino, more like peanut. No. Um, Wolves are setting up for next season. I am adamant of that. I am so adamant of them setting up for next season. They have bought Rob Edwards in, obviously, after sacking Vitor Pereira, who got a lovely payday after extending his contract by 3 years. He got a lovely payday from that. But they bought Rob Edwards in, and I think it's not for them to stay up. It's for them to get ready for next season. I'm going to tell you the amount of points that they have out of 12 games. So out of 12 games, you could have got, I think Arsenal are on the heart with 12. No, they're not on 12 points at all. They're really not. They're on 29 points. So out of 12 games, you could have had 36 points, right? So out of the 36 points that they could have if they won every game, which no team has, by the way, but if out of the 36 points that they could have gained, they have 2. And Burnley have 10, and they're sat in 19th. Now, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but you're still sat on 0 wins with a minus 20 goal difference, and you're telling me Rob Edwards is the man to keep you in it. I don't think they're setting up to stay in the league. I think they're setting up to go down, and then Jordan Strand Larson will leave, and Johnston will leave, and Agbadu will leave, and João Gomez, and Andre Gomez, and Totti Gomez will all leave because they're in this position where they're in the championship now. And maybe I'm wrong. Jordan Strand Larson and João Gomez and Andre Gomez and Totti Gomez and players like that and Munetzi will all stay for the championship season because they stand by the manager. But I can't see them setting up for staying in the league this season. They're going down to the championship without a shadow of a doubt. And I don't know why Rob Edwards left. Obviously, he did say he really liked the club. He really liked the setup. Obviously, I think he was there as a player for a little bit. And he genuinely loves the club and he wanted to be a manager. So he wasn't going to pass up the opportunity. But what he was building at Middlesbrough was really special. He was a really good manager at Middlesbrough. Obviously, the Luton job didn't go his way. I think he left. I don't think he got sacked, but I think he left. But yeah, what he was building at Middlesbrough was really, really special, and he threw it away by going to a club at Wolves. And if that's what he wanted, so nobody else can fault him. Sorry, just closing the pen now. I don't know why it was still on. But yeah, it's an odd move, but Crystal Palace doing what they do best, and yeah, they Jean-Philippe Mateta obviously didn't score this game, so we didn't get to see the boom celebration. But yeah, really good finishes from Jeremy Pino, and I literally just said who scored. How did I already forget? Already. Daniel Munoz. Now this game was an interesting one to watch. Obviously, Man City won this to go within a point of Arsenal, and they lost 2-1 to Newcastle. Ruben Diaz got the goal, but Harvey Barnes put in a show-stopping performance, and so did Jacob Murphy, actually, creating so much space for the overlap out on that right-hand side. But Harvey Barnes are 2 really, really good finishers. They killed that Man City team. Ruben Diaz got a goal. I think that's his first within, I think they said something like 3 years, which I don't believe at all. But that's what they were saying. Harvey Barnes with 2 magnificent goals. Harvey Barnes is actually a really good player, and so is Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy is so good with Tino Livramento behind him. And with Nick Vandermeiden now at top, they can put crosses in endlessly, and he will win them 9 times out of 10 in the air because of his stature and his jump. His jump is ridiculous for his size and makes him probably around 7 foot. Um, but yeah, one thing that I do need to say about Newcastle, and it's a bit of a criticism, they have been really good this season. Obviously, a lot of people talk about their midfield with Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joe Linton, which isn't a bad midfield, but it's not very balanced. Because Joe Linton and Guimaraes and Tonali are all fairly defensive-minded players, even though Joe Linton was brought in as a striker, and then Eddie Howe, who I really like, by the way, and I think he's been a revolutionary manager for Newcastle. Um, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it is not a balanced midfield with how they all are. They're very aggressive and they're very defensive. They're very defensive minded. Um, they need a playmaker who can slice through defenses because none like their passing range is good, but they're not breaking lines with it. And you could do with someone like an Odegaard or like a Kevin De Bruyne or like a Santi Cazorla or a David Silva or like a Bruno Fernandes or like someone like that who can break lines. I'm not saying they're not scoring enough goals or creating enough chances, but they're not doing enough in attack to secure them games. Like they only won 2-1, and even though they put in a really good performance, you can't rely on your three attacking players doing all the work in this team. Like Man City can't rely on Haaland all the time, but they do. And that's why I don't want to say Man City are our closest rivals, but right now, because of Haaland, they are. If you take Haaland out of that team, they score one goal max from another player. Max one. Um, not for the rest of the season, but just like Pep doesn't have anyone else in the changing room who can change that. He had Julian Alvarez, and that was a great like switch between him and Haaland. They were really good together. And you have Umar Marmoush, who is sat on the bench for literally no reason when he's better than half of their attacking players. Jeremy Doku's good. Phil Foden is overrated, and you can scold me in the comments for saying that, but Phil Foden is overrated as of now, and he's overrated by the English media. That is the pure like his assist for Eze's goal in the England. Who were we playing that game? It was either Serbia or like Albania or someone. But Eze scored an absolute cracker, like edge of the box, literally held it top corner. And Phil Foden made a 3 yard pass and got praised for it like you wouldn't believe. And that is ridiculous. And I'm sorry for saying this, but that like he is overrated. I don't mind Phil Foden as a player, but he is overhyped and overrated in so many ways. But yeah, and I might put a video in it of that assist because it is absolutely ridiculous to be calling that one a great assist because he runs for maybe half the pitch with no one around him, literally no one presses him, and they're all moving backwards. And he makes a simple 3 to 5 yard pass to Eze, and it's served on a silver platter for Eze. He he can't miss. He can't miss a shot. It's a tap in. Bullshit. Foden is overrated, and he is so much worse than Omar Marmoush. So there we go. Next game is Leeds versus Aston Villa. Leeds took an early lead in this game, but Aston Villa came back through Morgan Rogers. Um, Morgan Rogers had a really good game in the second half, at least. Anyway, that free kick, that second goal, magnificent. And the goalkeeper, he didn't do a, he could have done more. He could have literally moved. He put his arm out. He, it was a good goal. It was a very good free kick. He kind of he hit it. It's a knuckleball. It really the went into the wall and dipped really quickly, and it had a bit of swerve on it. And it's a good free kick. As I said, the goalkeeper can do more, but there we go. But Morgan Rogers really did. He made the comeback happen. Like there was no one really. around him that looked like they were going to do much. Ollie Watkins didn't have a great game. Emiliano Buendia got subbed off at half time, as did Luca Digne. Um, Tielemans didn't look like he was going to do much. Kamara didn't look like he was going to do much. So yeah, he inspired that win massively. Next game that I want to go on to makes me. Well, this game definitely didn't make me yawn for one, but it was 4-1 North London derby and Eberechieze scoring. Um, Leo Trossard opened the scoring. Spurs were really negative in this first half. Like everything that they did was like negative. Starting with five at the back, 11 men behind the ball at all times. Ooh, boring play. Kevin Danso came in because he had a long throw. Wow. A lot of players in the league do, but they don't start with a five at the back because he was shit this game. Like Kevin Danso had one of the worst defensive performances I have ever seen in my entire life. Um, Leo Trossard's goal was obviously the opener. Um, he kind of he got the ball to the left hand side, and he came inside, middle of the box, and he hit the ball on the channel with a. It did have a big deflection from Van der Ven. It did, which kind of made it go in the more corner direction. If you look at it from the bird's eye view angle, it didn't look like it took a massive deflection, and when you're watching it normally, but you slow it down, go to an angle that's kind of behind the goal, you can see the Van der Ven patch. But it was going on target, so it counted as a Leo Trossard goal. But he took it really well. I think his first touch for that goal was immense. He, yeah, he took it, hit it on the spin, and then just before half time, Eberechi popped up with his first goal, which was a really good finish in general. When you look at his goal, I think it was Timber who set up the first one. By the way, Timber was immense this game, like genuinely incredible. I do have a team of the week, so I will be reading that at the end. But anyway, Eze's goal came in the 41st minute. I believe it was Timber who set him up, and if you look at the space that Eze has when he passes the ball, he has got little to none. He had two players close him down immediately, and then a third one came in just before he took the shot. But he found that little bit of space where he could take the shot, and he took it magnificently. It's a really good goal when you look at how technical it was from his side of things, his ability to just find that little bit of space in and around the box, getting away from one or two players really well. Yeah, good finish. And then one of the better goals, one of the goals of the season, I think it will be a nomination for that. Is Richarlison, and if anyone watched the pre-season game with Arsenal, the Saar halfway line goal, it was really similar to that. Some Mendy was really sloppy in midfield, not for the whole game, just for this one bit of play. But Mendy lost the ball with he didn't let it go. He didn't let it go. He kept the ball at his feet, which is really unhelpful when you're playing a team like Spurs, who were very good in this game. And they started the second half better than they were in the whole first half combined. But they started this second half off decently. They were high pressing, high tempo. Thomas Frank obviously gave him a bollocking in the dressing room. But Richarlison caught the ball. Well, no, actually. The commentators say it was Bentancur, but it was Paul Linier who got the ball off Zubimendi in midfield. Richarlison picked it up, and then from about 35 yards out, he caught right off his line, and then just dinked it over him. It's a really good technical finish. He still has quite a lot to do after he gets the ball. So yeah, I have to give him tips for that. It was a really good goal, to be fair. And then, so yeah, Izzy scored his second of the game. Richarlison pulled one back for a lackluster Spurs, and they looked good. To be fair to Spurs, they looked good for about 15 minutes after that goal went in, and they wanted to get a second, and you could see that they were pushing for. But then 6 minutes after the 70th minute, Eberechi makes a hat trick, and he sent Udogie to sleep. Like genuinely, I remember a game about 2 seasons ago. Was it 2 seasons? Maybe a season or two ago, where Fabio Vieira plays Jesus through, and Dalot comes in and slides in, and he goes back to Manchester. With Udogi came in, and Eze was really aware just to slide the ball across him as Udogi was coming in, and Udogi slid in and went back to N11. Like that is crazy because Udogi was so committed to the tackle, and Eze knew what he was going to do. Like you could see Udogi, like as he was in the run, you could see he was going to slide in, and Eze was already aware of this and just slided it across his body, and then takes the shot. Really good finish. Um, but yeah, the hat trick here for Eze. Obviously, Spurs missed out on getting Eze because, and I was speaking to my girlfriend about this, yeah, last night I think, and as soon as Arsenal came calling for Eze, there was never in doubt of where it was going to go. Like as soon as like Spurs came in, and he was, I think Eze was going to go there, but Arsenal came calling, and it was never in doubt. So Spurs didn't miss out on anything. It was just the his boyhood club came calling, and they got him instead. Like there was nothing to miss out on for Spurs. But that, yeah. Anyway, Eze must have felt in dreamland after the game. Like it's crazy. It was a really good hat trick from him. Really good Arsenal performance. It was really stable at the back. Piero Hincapié, Timber, Declan Rice had a good game. Um, and one more thing I do want to press on is where do you put Odegaard in that team now? Because as of now, I don't move anyone from that midfield. I don't move Declan Rice. I don't move Zubimendi, and I don't move Eze. If he one thing, if Eze does do just as well in this game as he does in the other games, I don't move Odegaard in for him. And I know that Odegaard's the captain, but I can't see him getting back in the team after that Eze performance. And obviously, I think he is back in training for the Bayern Munich game, so maybe he'll start in that game, which I hope he does, because I love Odegaard, but his form hasn't been good recently. I think he had a game against Atalanta, I believe, in the Champions League, and he had a really good game. Got injured. And then, what were we on? 7 yards, 8 yards. But yeah, and I don't swap any of them out to Odegaard right now, which is really sad to say. But yeah, Hincapié was a really good incomer for Gabriel, who was obviously out with an injury. I think he's out for a month and a half, around there. Well, as I've been told, I don't think Arteta has officially released how long he's going to be out for, but he's going to be out for a fairly extended period of time. Not a long, not a long time for all Arsenal fans. It's a month and a half at most. If anything does pick up, then I hope it's not major. But yes, so Ngapié came in and he was so solid next to Saliba. He looked really assured and like he's been playing in that team for years. Um, but yeah, that's just something that you got to deal with sometimes in football, obviously. And now Arsenal's squad depth looks so much better than it was last season because Gabriel gets injured and you put like Jakub Kivior in last season. But now we have Mosquera, you have Calafiori, and you can put Marco Skelly at left back, or you could put Hincapié in. You could put Calafiori at left centre back and then put Hincapié at left back. We have so many different options that we can put, even like put Ben White or Yuri and Timber at centre back. Do you know what I mean? We have those options now. Um, but yeah, Hincapié, I enjoyed his game. Anyway, last game is Man United versus Everton, and Idrissa got sent off for slapping his own teammate. He got slapped. He Idrissa slapped Michael Keane in the face and got slapped. And David Moyes said after the game, he said, um, he said something along the lines of, "I love it when my teammates slap each other because it shows passion." I don't disagree with him actually. And it was Dewsbury who scored the decisive goal and the only goal in this game at the half-hour mark. And Idrissa slapped his teammate, which took all the headlines off of Dewsbury Hall. Now, he was really bad for Dewsbury Hall because his goal was really good as well. Um, but yeah, it was an odd one. And it's going to steal the headlines in this podcast because he slapped his teammate, which is something that I have never seen before. I think I might have seen teammates fight, like Son and Hugo Lloris, a while ago, but I've never seen them slap each other. That just happened. It was so out of the blue. And it was so out of the blue for Everton. Actually, no, it was very in the blue, actually, because they are in blue. Get it? Do you understand what I did there? Oh, the blue, but they're playing it. No, okay. Um, but yeah, it was a odd thing that happened. But then Liverpool scored that only and decisive goal. Not much more we can really say about that game. Man United didn't look like they have for the last few games. I thought they were going to win coming into that game. I thought Man United were going to win. I don't think the guy would have got his hair cut. His hair is so long now, by the way. I might put a picture of him on the screen now, just so if anyone hasn't seen, which I'm sure you all have, then you could see. Um, but I have one more thing to talk about, which is my team of the week. Um, ignore the bit, ignore the bit that's all crossed out. But that is all of my notes that I have. And I have reasoning. So in goal, so I need to come closer here. In goal, I have Ariola. Obviously, like I said earlier, made some really good saves. Saved it from being like five or six more goals. Um, I've got Nicholas Savanian. I'm putting that left back for this game. I'm playing 4-4-3, by the way. Um, really good goal. Looks solid against Cody Gakpo, who has been, like I said, one of those shining lights for Liverpool. I've got Hincapié next to him. He looked really good, like I said, been playing in. He looked like he'd been playing in that team for years and slotted in really well for Gabriel. I've got Murillo, Savona counterpart next to him. Um, really good goal again. Commanded that back line really well. Running, defending, everything that you want from that centre back for that Liverpool game. He did. I've got Timber, who had a magnificent game and showed Richarlison and who was on his side, Odebear. They showed them levels to defending. And Javi Simmons when he came on. Um, Eze, Patrick, not much more you could say. Had a really good game in general, great chances for everyone. Um, what the flip? Where did the rest of them? Oh, there we go. Rice, best midfielder in the league. Not much more I can say. Again, had a really good game. Picked up a yellow, but his defensive work and his attacking work, not just this game but all season, but it's been really good. Morgan Rogers single-handedly got Whenever from one goal down, 0 points to 3 points. Um, Harvey Barnes had a really, really good game. Not much more like anyone could ask him. David Murphy, really good game. Created some space for the Tino Livramento overlap. Um, put some really good balls in for Voltemada that he didn't quite finish in the end, but that's alright. And then at my striker, I've got Callum Wilson, really good, and I'm glad to see him hopefully getting back into form now. But that was all for this episode. Really good match week 12. Match week 13 will be coming. Again, there will be games on this evening if this does get released before them, or even after. But I hope your teams do well. Chelsea vs Barcelona is the headline one, in my opinion. But yeah, just let me know how your teams get on in the comments. Um, yeah, and again, we can have a debate about Xhaka and Rice. Yeah, so thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye for now.